It's our 18th anniversary, and I'm sitting in Romano's steakhouse watching my wife Sarah lean across the candlelit table with that predatory smile she usually reserves for closing million-dollar deals. The wine has loosened her tongue, and apparently her conscience too. "Yes, I slept with Richard," she says, cutting into her filet mignon like she's performing surgery. "My boss. And honestly, Jake, I don't regret it one bit. I nearly choke on my overpriced ribeye. 18 years of marriage, and she drops this bomb like she's commenting on the weather." The restaurant buzzes around us, couples celebrating, families laughing, while my world implodes in slow motion. "How long?" I ask, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. Sarah dabs her lips with the cloth napkin, leaving a perfect red lipstick stain. 6 months, maybe 7. Does it matter? "Does it matter?" I repeat, setting down my fork. The metal clinks against the plate louder than it should. "Sarah, we've been married for 18 years. We have a daughter." "Oh, please." She rolls her eyes, those green eyes that used to make me weak in the knees. Now they just look cold. "Don't act like you didn't see this coming. When's the last time we actually talked? When's the last time you looked at me like I was more than just the woman who pays half the mortgage?" The accusation stings because there's truth in it. My contracting business has been struggling since the economy tanked. Sarah's real estate career took off just as mine started circling the drain. Somewhere along the way, I became the guy who fixed leaky faucets while she closed deals on lakefront properties. "So you decided to screw your boss instead of talking to your husband?" "Richard understands me." She takes a sip of wine, her wedding ring catching the light. Still wearing it, I notice. "He appreciates what I bring to the table. He doesn't make me feel like I have to apologize for being successful." Right. I'm sure his appreciation has nothing to do with the fact that he's been divorced twice and has a reputation for sleeping with his employees. Sarah's face flushes, but not from embarrassment. Anger. "You don't know anything about Richard. I know he drives a BMW that costs more than I make in a year. I know he lives in that glass tower downtown while we're still in the same 3-bedroom ranch we bought when Emma was born. And I know he's using you, Sarah, just like he used his previous assistants." She laughs, but it's not a pleasant sound. "You think this is about money? About status? Isn't it?" "Maybe." She shrugs, and that casual indifference cuts deeper than any screaming match could. "Maybe I'm tired of being married to someone who gave up." The words hit like a physical blow. I lean back in my chair, studying this woman I thought I knew. Her blonde hair is perfectly styled, her makeup flawless even after a full day of showing houses. She looks like success, smells like expensive perfume, and apparently feels like she's too good for the man who used to rub her feet after long days and bring her coffee in bed on Sunday mornings. "So what now?" I ask. "Now?" Sarah signals the waiter for the check. "Now I'm going to Richard's apartment. He's making dinner. On our anniversary." "Yes, Jake. On our anniversary." She stands, smoothing down her black dress. "Because he actually wants to spend time with me." I watch her walk away, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Every male head in the restaurant turns to follow her progress. Sarah always did know how to make an entrance. And apparently, an exit. The waiter approaches cautiously, probably sensing the tension. "Everything all right, sir?" "Perfect," I say, pulling out my wallet. Just perfect. I pay the check and sit there for another 10 minutes, finishing my beer and trying to process what just happened. Other couples continue their romantic dinners around me, blissfully unaware that my marriage just ended over appetizers and accusations. My phone buzzes. A text from Emma, our 19-year-old daughter who's supposed to be at college but spends most of her time posting on social media and judging everyone over the age of 30. "Mom told me about tonight. About time you two stopped pretending. BTW, Richard's actually pretty cool. At least he doesn't lecture people about hard work and integrity all the time." I stare at the message, reading it 3 times before the full impact hits. Emma knew. My own daughter knew about the affair and apparently approves. When did I become the villain in my own family's story? I drive home through streets I helped build. Half the houses in this neighborhood have my work in them. Custom cabinets, finished basements, deck additions. I used to take pride in that. Now it just feels like a monument to a life that's crumbling faster than I can repair it. The house is dark when I pull into the driveway. Sarah's car is gone, of course. Probably won't be back tonight. Maybe not tomorrow night either. I grab a beer from the fridge and sit in my recliner, staring at the family photos on the mantel. Sarah and me on our wedding day, both of us young and stupid and convinced we'd beat the odds. Emma's graduation from high school, all 3 of us smiling for the camera like we actually liked each other. When did it all go wrong? When did I become the enemy? My phone rings. Tommy Brennan, my best friend since high school, and the owner of Brennan's boxing gym downtown. How was the anniversary dinner? He asks. Fantastic. Sarah's sleeping with her boss, Emma thinks I'm a loser, and I'm sitting alone in my living room drinking beer and questioning every life choice I've ever made. Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus, Jake. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. You want to come down to the gym? Hit something? Actually, that sounds perfect. Brennan's gym sits in the old warehouse district, surrounded by empty buildings and broken dreams. It's not much to look at: concrete floors, exposed pipes, the permanent smell of sweat and determination. But it's real in a way that my marriage apparently wasn't. Tommy's waiting for me when I arrive, already wrapping his hands. He's 52, same as me, but he looks like he could still go 10 rounds with men half his age. 20 years as a cop before he opened the gym taught him how to read people, how to spot trouble before it starts. Talk, he says, tossing me a pair of gloves. I tell him everything while we work the heavy bags: the affair, the anniversary dinner, Emma's text. With each punch, the anger builds, not just at Sarah but at myself, for not seeing it coming. For letting my business slide while she climbed the ladder, for becoming the kind of man his own daughter mocks. So what's your move? Tommy asks after I've beaten the bag into submission. I don't know. Lawyer up, I guess. Try to save what's left of my dignity. Or, Tommy says, unwrapping his hands with deliberate slowness, you could make them remember why they shouldn't have messed with Jake Morrison. There's something in his tone that makes me look up. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it's time to stop playing defense. Maybe it's time to remind your wife and her boyfriend that actions have consequences. Tommy, nothing illegal, he says quickly. Nothing that'll get you arrested. But Sarah and this Richard guy, they think they can humiliate you and walk away clean. Maybe they need to learn different. I consider this while we lock up the gym. The old Jake, the one who built a business from nothing and never backed down from a fight, would have already started planning. But that Jake got worn down by years of struggling to keep up with his wife's success, years of being made to feel like the consolation prize in his own marriage. Maybe it's time to remember who I used to be. I need to think about this, I tell Tommy. Don't think too long, he says. The longer you wait, the more comfortable they get. And comfortable people make mistakes. I drive home through empty streets, Tommy's words echoing in my head. The house is still dark, still empty. Sarah's probably at Richard's apartment right now, celebrating their victory, toasting the end of her marriage with expensive wine and cheap sentiment. But as I sit in my driveway staring at the house I've poured 18 years of my life into, something hardens inside my chest. Maybe Sarah's right. Maybe I did give up. Maybe I let myself become the kind of man people walk away from. Time to change that. I wake up alone on the couch at 6 a.m., my neck screaming from sleeping at an awkward angle. Sarah never came home. Her side of the bed is still made, still smells like the lavender fabric softener she insists on using. My phone shows 3 missed calls from my foreman, Pete Kowalski. The Hendricks kitchen remodel was supposed to start today, and Pete's probably wondering where the hell I am. Good question. Where the hell am I? I shower, shave, and try to look like a man whose life didn't implode 12 hours ago. In the mirror, I see my father's face staring back. Same square jaw, same brown eyes, same stubborn set to the mouth. Dad never let anyone push him around. Maybe it's genetic. The Hendricks live in Maple Heights, the kind of neighborhood where Sarah shows houses to doctors and lawyers, big colonials with perfect lawns and 3-car garages. The kind of place I used to dream about living before I learned that dreams are just disappointments waiting to happen. Pete's already there with the crew, unloading tools from the truck. He takes one look at my face and pulls me aside. Rough night, boss? You could say that. Pete's been with me for 8 years, ever since I started Morrison Construction. He's seen me through the lean times, the good times, and apparently now the times when your wife decides to torpedo your marriage over anniversary dinner. Whatever it is, we'll handle it, he says. The guys need the work, and Mrs. Hendricks is already talking about redoing the master bathroom next month. Right. Work. The one thing I can still control. We spend the morning tearing out the old cabinets, and the physical labor helps clear my head. There's something satisfying about destruction when it's purposeful, when it's building toward something better. Maybe that's what I need to do with my life. Tear out the old rotted parts and start fresh. Around noon, my phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. I'll be by tonight to get some clothes. We need to talk. I stare at the message, considering my response. The old Jake would have typed something conciliatory, something designed to smooth things over and avoid conflict. But the old Jake got cheated on and publicly humiliated. I type back, doors unlocked. Try not to bring your boyfriend. 3 dots appear immediately, then disappear, then appear again. Finally, don't be an ass, Jake. Too late for that, I reply. Mrs. Hendricks brings us sandwiches at lunch, fussing over the crew like we're her own sons. She's a widow in her 70s, the kind of woman who bakes cookies for the mailman and remembers everyone's birthday. How's Sarah? She asks while we eat. I haven't seen her at the grocery store lately. She's been busy with work, I say, which is technically true. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of how well she's doing. Richard Blackwood speaks very highly of her. My sandwich suddenly tastes like cardboard. You know Richard? Of course. He helped me sell Harold's house after he passed. Such a charming man. Very professional. She pauses, studying my face with the intuition that comes from 8 decades of reading people. Is everything all right, dear? Everything's fine, Mrs. Hendricks. Just tired. But as she walks back to the house, I can't shake the feeling that everyone in town knows something I don't. How long have Sarah and Richard been flaunting their relationship? How long have I been the clueless husband, the last to know? That evening, I'm waiting when Sarah's Mercedes pulls into the driveway. She sits in the car for a full minute before getting out, probably steeling herself for the conversation. She's changed clothes since last night, jeans and a sweater instead of the black dress, trying to look casual, approachable, like we're just 2 reasonable adults working out a minor disagreement. Hi, she says, hovering in the doorway like she's not sure she's welcome in her own house. Hi yourself. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, a beer in front of me, and 18 years of marriage spread out in my head like evidence in a crime scene. She moves through the house like a stranger, touching things with uncertain fingers. The ceramic bowl we bought on our honeymoon in Mexico, the coffee maker I gave her for Christmas 3 years ago, the family photos she hasn't looked at in months. I know you're angry, she says finally. Do you? Jake, please. This is hard enough without what? Without me making you feel guilty for cheating on your husband? Without me being upset that you chose our anniversary to blow up our marriage? She sits across from me, her hands folded on the table. No wedding ring, I notice. I didn't plan it that way. But you don't regret it? No. Her voice is steady, certain. I don't regret it. At least she's honest. How long, Sarah? And don't lie to me. I think I deserve the truth after 18 years. 8 months, she says after a pause. It started at the company retreat in Portland. 8 months. While I was working 60-hour weeks trying to keep the business afloat, she was in hotel rooms with her boss. While I was worrying about making the mortgage payment, she was planning a future that didn't include me. Does Emma know? She figured it out a few weeks ago. She's not stupid, Jake. And she's okay with it? Sarah's face hardens. She understands that sometimes people grow apart. That sometimes staying together is worse than being honest about what you really want. What you really want. I take a sip of beer, studying my wife's face. And what's that, Sarah? What do you really want? I want to feel alive again. I want to wake up excited about the day ahead instead of dreading another conversation about money or the business or why we never do anything fun anymore. Her voice rises slightly, passion creeping in. I want to be with someone who sees potential instead of problems. Someone with money. It's not about money. Isn't it? Richard drives a BMW. Richard lives in a penthouse. Richard can take you to restaurants that don't have paper napkins. Richard believes in me, she snaps. He doesn't make me feel guilty for wanting more than this. She gestures around the kitchen, taking in the modest house, the ordinary life we built together. This? I stand up, anger finally breaking through the numbness. You mean the house I've been busting my ass to pay for? The life I've been killing myself to provide? The life you chose, Jake. Not me. I never asked you to sacrifice everything for some noble ideal about honest work and building something with your hands. I never asked you to turn down that partnership with Kellerman Construction because you wanted to stay small and local. The partnership. 3 years ago, Tom Kellerman offered to buy me out and make me a junior partner in his operation. Steady salary, benefits, security, but it would have meant giving up Morrison Construction, giving up the dream of building something that was mine. I thought we agreed. You decided, Sarah interrupts. You decided, and I went along with it because that's what I always do. Go along with Jake's decisions, support Jake's dreams. Well, I'm tired of it. The silence stretches between us, filled with years of unspoken resentments and growing apart. Finally, Sarah stands up. I'm going to pack some things. I'll be staying with Richard for a while. How long is a while? I don't know, until we figure out what comes next. She disappears upstairs, and I hear drawers opening and closing, hangers scraping against the closet rod, the sounds of a life being dismantled. When she comes back down with 2 suitcases, I'm still sitting at the table. I'm sorry it happened this way, she says. Are you? Because it seems like this is exactly how you wanted it to happen. Public humiliation, maximum impact. Make sure everyone knows that Jake Morrison wasn't good enough to keep his wife happy. That's not... She stops, shakes her head. I can't do this right now. When, Sarah? When can we do this? When it's convenient for you and Richard? She pauses at the door, her hand on the knob. I'll call you in a few days. We need to figure out the practical stuff. The house, the finances, Emma's tuition. And then she's gone, leaving me alone with the echo of her heels on the hardwood floor and the lingering scent of her perfume. I sit in the quiet house for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences, about the partnership I turned down and the dreams that turned into anchors. About the woman who just walked out of my life like I was a chapter she was finished reading. My phone buzzes, a text from Emma. Mom told me she's moving in with Richard. Good for her. I stare at the message, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. My wife is gone. My daughter thinks I'm the problem. And somewhere across town, Richard Blackwood is probably celebrating his victory. But here's the thing about construction work. You learn that every building has weak points. Every structure has places where the right amount of pressure, applied correctly, can bring the whole thing down. Time to do some demolition work. 3 days pass before I see them together. I'm grabbing coffee at Millfield Diner when Sarah and Richard walk in like they own the place. She's laughing at something he said, her hand resting on his arm with casual intimacy. He's exactly what I expected. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit that probably costs more than most people make in a month. They don't see me in the corner booth, too wrapped up in each other to notice the husband sitting 20 feet away. I watch them order, watch him pull out her chair, watch her smile at him like he hung the moon. It's a performance, but they're both enjoying it. "Well, well," says a voice behind me. I turn to see Danny Martinez sliding into the opposite seat. Danny runs Martinez Electric, and we've worked together on dozens of jobs over the years. Or we did, until word got around about my personal situation. Danny: "Heard about you and Sarah." "Sorry, man. That's rough." I nod, keeping my voice neutral. "These things happen." "Yeah, but with her boss? That's cold." Danny glances over at the happy couple, then back at me. "Listen, Jake, I got to ask. The Hendricks job, we still on for the electrical work?" "Far as I know." "Why?" Danny shifts uncomfortably. "Well, it's just, Richard Blackwood's got a lot of influence in this town. Real estate, construction permits, city council connections. Some of the guys are worried about taking sides, you know?" Taking sides. Like my marriage ending is some kind of political issue. I'm not asking anyone to take sides, Danny. I know. But people talk. And right now, the talk is that maybe Sarah had good reasons for, good reasons for cheating on her husband? Good reasons for wanting something better. Danny's voice drops. "Look, I'm not judging. But you got to admit, things have been tight for you lately. Jobs getting canceled. That mess with the Peterson project last year. The Peterson project. A bathroom remodel that went sideways when we hit a water main. Insurance covered most of it, but word got around that Morrison Construction had problems. In a small town, reputation is everything. So what are you saying, Danny?" "I'm saying maybe this is a chance for a fresh start. For both of you." Across the diner, Richard is paying the check while Sarah gathers her purse. They're leaving, mission accomplished. Everyone in Millfield has now seen them together, seen how happy they are, seen how much better Sarah looks with a successful man. "Thanks for the advice," I tell Danny. "I'll keep it in mind." But as I watch them walk to Richard's BMW, I'm thinking about something else entirely. I'm thinking about weak points and pressure, and how every structure can be brought down if you know where to push. That afternoon, I drive to Tommy's gym. He's working with a kid, maybe 16, teaching him how to throw a proper jab. The kid's got heart, but no technique, throwing wild haymakers that wouldn't hurt a butterfly. "Patience," Tommy tells him. "Boxing's not about throwing the hardest punch, it's about throwing the right punch at the right time." Good advice for more than just boxing. After the kid leaves, Tommy and I sit on the bench, watching dust motes dance in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the high windows. "Saw Sarah and her boyfriend at the diner today," I say. "Yeah? How'd that go?" "About like you'd expect." Danny Martinez thinks I should take it as a sign to start fresh. Tommy snorts. Danny Martinez couldn't find his ass with both hands and a roadmap. What's he know about marriage? He knows about business. Says Richard Blackwood's got connections, influence. Says people are worried about picking the wrong side. "People are sheep," Tommy says. "They follow whoever looks like they're winning." Right now, that's your wife and her boyfriend. But that can change. Can it? Tommy turns to look at me, and I see something calculating in his eyes. "Remember when we were kids? That summer when the Kowalski brothers kept messing with us at the swimming hole?" I remember. 3 brothers, all bigger than us, who decided that Tommy and I didn't belong at their private swimming spot. They'd throw rocks, steal our bikes, generally make our lives miserable. You wanted to fight them straight up, Tommy continues. 3 against 2, and they had 50 pounds on us. But that's not how we handled it, was it? No, it wasn't. We'd been smarter than that. We'd waited until the brothers split up, then dealt with them one at a time. We'd used their own tactics against them. Rumors, pranks, psychological warfare. By the end of the summer, the Kowalski brothers were avoiding us. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe it's time to remind this town who Jake Morrison really is. Not the guy who's been getting kicked around for the last few years, but the guy who built a business from nothing. The guy who never backed down from a fight. Sarah's not the enemy, Tommy. Isn't she? He stands up, starts wrapping his hands for a workout. She humiliated you in public. She's turning your own daughter against you. She's poisoning your reputation with guys like Danny Martinez. What would you call that? I don't have an answer for that. Look, Tommy says, I'm not saying you should do anything crazy. But maybe it's time to level the playing field. Maybe it's time to remind people that actions have consequences. That night, I sit in my empty house and think about consequences. About the Peterson project and the canceled jobs and the slow erosion of everything I'd built. About Sarah's laughter in the diner and Danny's uncomfortable advice and the way people look at me now, like I'm a failure, like I'm the reason my marriage fell apart. Maybe I am. Maybe I did give up somewhere along the way. Maybe I let the struggles wear me down until I became the kind of man people leave. But here's the thing about being at the bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. And sometimes, the best way up is to drag everyone else down to your level. I pull out my laptop and start researching Richard Blackwood. Social media, business records, news articles. It's amazing what you can find about someone if you know where to look. And after 20 years in construction, dealing with permits and inspections and city bureaucrats, I know exactly where to look. Richard Blackwood, it turns out, has some very interesting business practices. A pattern of hiring young, attractive female employees, a series of sexual harassment complaints that were quietly settled out of court, a couple of real estate deals that skirted the edge of ethical, if not legal. Most interesting of all, he's currently under investigation by the State Real Estate Commission for allegedly steering clients toward properties where he had a financial interest. Nothing proven yet, but the investigation is ongoing. I sit back, studying the screen. This is what Sarah left me for, a man who treats women like disposable commodities and bends the rules whenever it suits him. A man who's probably using her the same way he's used every other woman in his orbit. The question is, what am I going to do about it? My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Saw your wife with her new man today. Looks like she's trading up. Maybe you should focus on not losing what's left of your business, instead of trying to win back a woman who's clearly moved on. I stare at the message, anger building in my chest like pressure in a boiler. Anonymous coward. Probably one of the guys who used to buy me drinks and slap me on the back when times were good. Now that I'm down, they're lining up to kick me. But as I delete the message, I realize something. They're not wrong about Sarah moving on. She's made her choice, and she's not coming back. The question is whether I'm going to let that choice destroy everything else I've built, or whether I'm going to fight back. I think about the Kowalski brothers and how we'd handled them. Not with brute force, but with patience and planning and the willingness to hit where it hurts. Time to go to work. The opportunity comes sooner than I expected. I'm at City Hall pulling permits for the Hendricks bathroom project when I overhear Councilman Bradley talking to his assistant about the upcoming vote on the new waterfront development project. Richard's company, Blackwood Realty, is the primary broker for the deal. The environmental impact study should be finished by Friday, Bradley is saying. Assuming everything checks out, we'll vote on Monday. Environmental impact study. I remember that project from the newspaper coverage. 50 luxury condos on the old Morrison paper mill site. The same site where my grandfather worked for 30 years before the mill closed. The same site that's been leaking industrial chemicals into Miller's Creek for decades. Interesting timing for an environmental study. That evening, I drive out to the old mill site. The chain-link fence is more suggestion than barrier, and I've been exploring these ruins since I was a kid. The main building is still standing, barely, its broken windows like dead eyes staring out over the creek. I'm not sure what I'm looking for until I find it. Fresh tire tracks in the mud near the water's edge, and a stack of soil sample containers hidden behind a pile of rusted machinery. The containers are labeled with yesterday's date and a testing company logo I don't recognize. I take pictures with my phone, making sure to capture the company name and the sample locations. Then I do a little research on the testing company. Turns out they're based in Boston and have a very interesting track record of finding exactly the results their clients want them to find. The next morning, I call my old friend Mike Chen at the EPA. We went to high school together, and he's been monitoring the mill site contamination for years. He's also been frustrated by the lack of action from local officials. "Jake Morrison," he says when he picks up. "How's the construction business?" "Been better. Listen, Mike, I need a favor. You still interested in that mill site contamination?" "Always." "Why?" I tell him about the soil samples and the testing company. There's a long pause on the other end. "You're saying someone's doing unauthorized testing on a federal contamination site?" "I'm saying someone's doing something, and I don't think it's official. Send me those pictures." "And Jake? If this is what I think it is, you might want to be careful. There's a lot of money riding on that development project." "I know. That's exactly why I'm doing this." The pictures go out to Mike, along with copies to the state environmental agency and the local newspaper's investigative reporter. I don't sign my name to anything, just an anonymous tip from a concerned citizen. By Thursday, the story breaks. Unauthorized soil testing at contaminated site raises questions about waterfront development. The article doesn't mention Richard by name, but it doesn't have to. Everyone knows who's behind the project. I'm at the diner having breakfast when Richard storms in, his face red with anger. He spots me immediately and marches over to my table. "You son of a bitch," he says, loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "You think you can sabotage my business because you can't keep your wife happy?" I take a sip of coffee, keeping my voice calm. "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" "Don't play dumb with me, Morrison. I know you're behind this environmental bullshit." "Behind what?" "I'm just a contractor trying to eat his breakfast in peace." Richard leans over the table, his voice dropping to a hiss. "You're a pathetic loser who can't accept that his wife found someone better. But if you think you can mess with my business, you're about to learn how things really work in this town." The diner has gone quiet, everyone watching the show. I can see phones coming out, people recording. Perfect. "Mr. Blackwood," I say, still calm, "I understand you're upset about the environmental investigation. But threatening people in public probably isn't the best way to handle it." "I'm not threatening you. I'm promising you. Keep messing with me, and you'll find out what it's like to really lose everything." He storms out, leaving me sitting there with my coffee and a restaurant full of witnesses. Within an hour, the video is all over social media. Richard Blackwood, successful businessman, having a public meltdown and threatening his girlfriend's ex-husband. Not a good look for someone trying to close a $50 million development deal. But Richard's not done. That afternoon, Pete calls me from the Hendricks job site. "Boss, we got a problem. City inspector just showed up, says there's been a complaint about our permits. He's shutting us down until we get re-inspected." "What kind of complaint?" "He won't say. Just that someone reported we're not following code." I drive over to the site, where Inspector Williams is writing up a violation notice. Williams and I have worked together for years without problems. He looks uncomfortable. "Sorry, Jake," orders from above. "Someone filed a formal complaint, and I have to investigate." "What's the complaint?" "Electrical work done without proper permits. Plumbing modifications not up to code. Structural changes without engineering approval." He hands me the notice. "None of it's accurate, but I still have to shut you down until you can prove compliance." I scan the complaint. It's detailed, technical, and completely fabricated. But it's also going to cost me a week of work and thousands of dollars in delays while I prove that everything was done correctly. Who filed the complaint? Williams shrugs. Anonymous tip. But Jake, between you and me? Be careful. Whoever did this knows exactly how to work the system. That evening, I'm sitting in my truck outside Richard's office building, watching him leave for the day. He's driving a different car, a black Mercedes instead of the BMW. Probably figured the BMW was too flashy given the current scrutiny. My phone rings. Sarah. Jake, we need to talk. About what? About whatever you think you're doing with Richard's business. This has to stop. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. The environmental story, the inspection complaints, I know it's you. You give me too much credit, Sarah. I'm just a contractor trying to make a living. A living that's apparently being threatened by code violations. Her voice is sharp. Funny how that happened right after you had your little confrontation with Richard. So she knows about the inspection. Of course she does. They probably planned it together. Is there a point to this call? The point is that you're embarrassing yourself. And you're embarrassing Emma. She's getting questions from her friends about her parents' divorce drama. Do you want that for her? Emma. My daughter who thinks Richard is pretty cool and that I'm the problem. My daughter who's been poisoned against me by her mother's version of events. What I want, I say carefully, is for people to stop messing with my business and my life. Then stop giving them reasons to. Move on, Jake. Find someone new. Rebuild your company. Start over. But stop this vendetta against Richard. It's not going to bring me back, and it's not going to make you feel better. She hangs up before I can respond. I sit in the parking lot for another hour, watching Richard's building. Lights go out on different floors as people head home to their families, their normal lives, their problems that don't involve cheating wives and anonymous complaints and public humiliation. Maybe Sarah's right. Maybe I should move on, start over, accept that this is how the story ends. The husband gets discarded, the wife gets the successful boyfriend, and everyone pretends that's just how these things work. But then I think about Richard's threat in the diner, about the inspection complaint that could have killed my business, about Emma thinking I'm the villain, and Danny Martinez worried about picking sides. Moving on is what the old Jake would do. The Jake who turned down the partnership, who let his business slide, who became the kind of man people leave. Time to see what the new Jake can accomplish. The town's annual Founders' Day festival is this weekend, and everyone will be there, including Richard and Sarah, who've apparently decided to make their debut as Millfield's new power couple. I know this because Emma posted about it on Instagram, a picture of Sarah getting her hair done with the caption, "Mom's getting ready for her big debut. So proud of her for choosing happiness. Choosing happiness. At whose expense? I spend Friday evening at Tommy's gym, working the heavy bag until my hands are raw inside the gloves. Tommy watches from across the room, occasionally calling out corrections to my form. You're telegraphing your punches, he says. In a real fight, that'll get you killed. Good thing this isn't a real fight. Isn't it? He walks over, starts unwrapping my hands. What's your plan for tomorrow? I'm going to the festival. Same as everyone else. And I'm going to remind this town who Jake Morrison really is. Tommy nods slowly. You sure about this? Once you cross certain lines, there's no going back. I think about Sarah's laugh in the diner, about Richard's threats, about Emma's Instagram posts, and Danny Martinez's uncomfortable advice, and the anonymous text telling me to focus on what's left of my business. I'm sure. Saturday dawns clear and warm, perfect festival weather. Main Street is blocked off, lined with booths selling everything from handmade crafts to kettle corn. The high school marching band is setting up near the gazebo, and kids run between the displays with sticky fingers and huge smiles. It's the kind of day that makes you remember why you love small-town life. The kind of day that makes you want to fight for what's yours. I spot Sarah and Richard near the Real Estate Association booth, where Richard is holding court with a group of local business owners. He's dressed down for the occasion, khakis and a polo shirt instead of his usual suit, but he still looks like money. Sarah stands beside him in a sundress that probably costs more than most people's car payments, smiling and nodding as he talks. They look happy, successful, like they belong together. Emma is with them, taking selfies and posting them in real time. My daughter, documenting her mother's new life for all the world to see. I buy a cup of coffee from the Lions Club booth and position myself where I can watch without being obvious. Richard is telling a story about some big deal he closed, gesturing with his hands, commanding attention. The kind of man who's never doubted his place in the world. Jake Morrison, right? I turn to find a woman in her 40s, blonde hair, expensive handbag. She looks familiar, but I can't place her. Linda Garrett, she says, extending her hand. Richard's ex-wife, the second one. Now I remember her. I'd seen her picture in Richard's office back when Sarah first started working there. Before the affair, when I still trusted my wife enough to visit her workplace. Linda, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you. No reason you should. We never officially met. She glances over at Richard and Sarah. Though I feel like I know you. Richard talks about you quite a bit. I bet he does. Oh, he does. You're the pathetic loser who couldn't keep his wife satisfied. The failed contractor who's trying to sabotage his business out of jealousy. She sips her coffee, studying my face. His words, not mine. And what are your words? Linda smiles, and there's something predatory in it. My words are that Richard Blackwood is a manipulative bastard who destroys everything he touches, and your wife is about to learn that the hard way. We stand in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Richard work the crowd. He's good at it, I have to admit. Charming, confident, the kind of man people want to do business with. He did the same thing to me, Linda continues. Started the affair while he was still married to his first wife. Made me feel special, chosen. Told me I was different from all the others. She laughs bitterly. Took me 3 years to realize I wasn't special. I was just convenient. How long were you married? 4 years. Long enough to learn his patterns. Long enough to see how he operates. She turns to face me fully. Long enough to gather some very interesting information about his business practices. Something in her tone makes me pay attention. What kind of information? The kind that might interest certain regulatory agencies. The kind that might explain how he's managed to close so many deals that other brokers couldn't touch. She reaches into her purse, pulls out a business card. If you're serious about making him pay for what he's done, call me. I have things you might find useful. She walks away before I can respond, disappearing into the crowd like she was never there. I look at the business card. Linda Garrett, private investigator. On the back, she's written a phone number and a single word. Tonight. The afternoon passes slowly. I wander the festival, buying raffle tickets I don't want, and making small talk with people who look at me with a mixture of pity and curiosity. The guy whose wife left him for her boss. The contractor who's struggling to keep his business afloat. But I also notice something else. People are talking about the environmental investigation, about Richard's outburst at the diner, about whether the waterfront development is really such a good idea. Doubt is a powerful thing. Once it takes root, it spreads like weeds. As the sun starts to set, the festival moves into its final phase. The mayor takes the stage to give his annual speech about community values and working together. Richard and Sarah have positioned themselves in the front row, playing the role of civic-minded couple. Emma is still with them, but I can see her looking around the crowd, looking for me maybe, or maybe just bored with the adult conversation. My phone buzzes. A text from Linda. Meet me at the Iron Horse Bar in 20 minutes. Come alone. The Iron Horse sits on the edge of town, the kind of place where construction workers and mill hands used to drink after their shifts. It's mostly empty these days, a relic of Millfield's industrial past, perfect for a private conversation. Linda is waiting in a corner booth, a manila folder on the table in front of her. She's changed clothes, jeans and a t-shirt instead of the festival outfit. She looks younger, more dangerous. "You came," she says. "You said you had information about Richard." "I do." She slides the folder across the table. 3 years' worth of documentation. Financial records, client lists, recorded conversations. Everything I could gather before the divorce was finalized. I opened the folder, scanning the contents. Bank statements showing suspicious transfers. Contracts with clients who don't seem to exist. Email exchanges discussing special arrangements for certain deals. This is evidence of systematic fraud, bribery, and money laundering, Linda finishes. Richard's been running a very sophisticated operation for years. Ghost buyers, inflated appraisals, kickbacks to city officials. The waterfront development is just the latest scheme. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because I want to see him burn." Her voice is flat, matter-of-fact. "He destroyed my marriage, stole my money, and then tried to destroy my reputation when I fought back. Your wife thinks she's won the lottery, but she's actually climbed aboard the Titanic." I flip through more documents, my head spinning. This isn't just about adultery anymore. This is about corruption, about a man who's been stealing from this town for years. "What do you want me to do with this?" "That's up to you. You could turn it over to the FBI. You could leak it to the press. You could use it to destroy his business and his reputation." She leans forward. "Or you could be smart about it. Use it as leverage. Make him pay for what he's done to both of us." Blackmail. Justice. She stands up, leaving the folder on the table. Richard Blackwood thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he can take whatever he wants and never face consequences. Maybe it's time to prove him wrong. She leaves me alone with the folder and a choice. I could walk away, let the authorities handle it, take the high road. Or I could use this information to wage war on the man who stole my wife and tried to destroy my business. The old Jake would have done the right thing. The old Jake believed in justice and playing by the rules and trusting the system to work. But the old Jake got cheated on and humiliated and pushed around by men with more money and fewer scruples. I close the folder and head home to plan Richard Blackwood's destruction. Monday morning, I'm waiting in the parking lot when Richard arrives at his office. He's driving the Mercedes again, talking on his phone, probably arranging another deal that skirts the edge of legality. He doesn't notice me until he's getting out of the car. "Morrison." His voice is wary. "What do you want?" I hold up Linda's folder. "To make you an offer you can't refuse." His eyes narrow as he recognizes the manila envelope. "Where did you get that?" "From someone who knows you very well. Someone who's been documenting your business practices for years." Richard glances around the parking lot, checking for witnesses. "I don't know what you think you have, but I have bank records showing payments to ghost buyers. I have emails discussing kickbacks to city officials. I have recorded conversations where you admit to inflating property values." I smile. "I have enough evidence to put you in federal prison for the next 20 years. The color drains from his face. "What do you want?" "I want you to leave town. Today. Close your business, cancel the waterfront development, and disappear from Millfield forever." "You're insane. I have a life here, a business." "You have a criminal enterprise that's about to be exposed." I pull out my phone, show him the screen. I've already drafted emails to the FBI, the State Attorney General's office, and the Millfield Gazette. One button push, and your whole world comes crashing down. Richard stares at the phone, his jaw working. "Sarah will never forgive you for this." Sarah made her choice. Now you get to make yours. And if I refuse, then by tomorrow morning, you'll be the most famous criminal in Maine. Your face will be on every news channel, every newspaper, every website. The FBI will freeze your assets, seize your records, and start building a case that will keep you locked up until you're too old to remember your own name. Richard is sweating now, despite the cool morning air. You can't prove any of this. Can't I? I open the folder, pull out a bank statement. This shows a $50,000 payment to Millfield City Councilman Bradley, dated 3 days before the vote on your zoning variance for the Harbor View project. Interesting coincidence. His face goes white. That was a legitimate consulting fee. For what? Bradley's never worked in real estate. He's a retired high school principal. I put the statement back in the folder. But I'm sure you can explain that to the FBI. We stand in silence for a long moment, the weight of 20 years of corruption hanging between us. Finally, Richard speaks. What about Sarah? What about her? She's involved in some of these deals. If this comes out, she could be charged as an accessory. The threat is clear. Destroy him, and I destroy her too. My wife, the mother of my daughter, could face criminal charges because of her association with Richard's schemes. That's her problem, I say. She chose to get involved with you. She chose to help you steal from this town. If she goes down with you, that's the price of her choices. Richard studies my face, looking for weakness, for some sign that I'm bluffing. He doesn't find any. You've changed, he says finally. Sarah was right about you giving up, but she was wrong about you staying down. People change, usually for the worse. How long do I have? 24 hours. By tomorrow morning, I want you gone. Close your business, cancel your deals, and never come back to Millfield. And Sarah? Sarah can make her own decisions, but if I were you, I wouldn't count on her following you into exile. Richard nods slowly, the fight going out of him. You know, I almost respect you for this. I didn't think you had it in you. Neither did I. He turns toward his office, then stops. For what it's worth, Morrison, Sarah really did love you once. But love isn't always enough. No, I agree. Sometimes you need leverage. I watch him walk into his building, probably to start making the calls that will dismantle his empire. In 24 hours, Richard Blackwood will be history, and Millfield will be free of his corruption. But I'm not done yet. That evening, I'm waiting when Sarah comes home. She's been staying at Richard's apartment, but she still has clothes here, still has a key. She looks surprised to see me sitting at the kitchen table. Jake, I wasn't expecting you to be here. It's still my house. For now. She sets down her purse, studies my face. You look different. Do I? Harder. Like you've made some kind of decision. She sits across from me, the same position we were in a week ago when she told me about the affair. Richard says you've been threatening him. Richard says a lot of things, most of them lies. Jake, whatever you're planning, please don't. This town is too small for this kind of war. The war's already over, Sarah. Richard lost. Something in my tone makes her sit up straighter. What do you mean? I slide a copy of Linda's evidence across the table. Sarah opens it, her face growing pale as she scans the documents. Oh my God, she whispers. Jake, where did you get this? From someone who knows Richard very well. Someone who's been documenting his crimes for years. These are federal crimes. Fraud, bribery, money laundering. She looks up at me, fear in her eyes. Some of these deals, I helped with some of these deals. I know. Jake, if this comes out, I could be charged as an accessory. I could go to prison. I know that too. We sit in silence while the implications sink in. Sarah's affair wasn't just adultery. It was a partnership in crime. Her successful career, her expensive clothes, her new lifestyle, all of it built on stolen money and corrupted deals. What do you want? She asks finally. I want you to understand what you've done. Not just to our marriage, but to this town. Richard's been stealing from Millfield for years, and you helped him do it. I didn't know. You knew enough. You knew the deals were too good to be true. You knew the commissions were too high. You knew, and you didn't care because it was making you rich. Sarah's hands shake as she closes the folder. What happens now? Now you get to make a choice. You can run away with Richard and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, waiting for the FBI to catch up. Or you can stay here and face the consequences of what you've done. And if I stay? If you stay, you cooperate with the investigation. You tell the truth about Richard's operation. You help the authorities recover the money he's stolen from this town. In exchange for what? In exchange for me not sending this evidence to every law enforcement agency in the state. Sarah stares at me like she's seeing a stranger. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a chance to do the right thing. Maybe the first right thing you've done in months. And us? Our marriage? Our marriage ended the night you told me about the affair. This is about justice now. This is about making sure the people who've been hurt by Richard's schemes get their money back. Sarah stands up, paces to the window. Outside, the neighborhood is quiet. Normal families living normal lives, unaware that their property values and tax rates have been manipulated by a criminal conspiracy. He's leaving town, she says, without turning around. Richard. He called me an hour ago, said something had come up and he had to leave immediately. He wanted me to come with him. And I said no. She turns to face me. I said no because this is my home. Because Emma's here. Because running away would just prove that everything you've said about me is true. What have I said about you? That I'm selfish. That I chose money over integrity. That I became someone I don't recognize. She wipes her eyes. You're right about all of it. For a moment, I see the woman I married, the woman who used to bring me coffee in bed and worry about our mortgage payments and dream about the life we'd build together. Before the success, before Richard, before everything went wrong. So what now? I ask. Now I call the FBI and tell them everything I know about Richard's operation. I help them recover whatever money can be recovered. I face whatever consequences come from that. And then I try to figure out how to live with what I've done. She looks at me with something that might be hope. Think there's any chance you could forgive me? Eventually? I consider the question. Could I forgive the affair? The public humiliation? The way she turned our daughter against me? Could I forgive years of corruption and stolen money and lies? I don't know, I say honestly. Maybe. But it would take time, and it would take you proving that you're serious about making this right. Sarah nods. I understand. And Sarah? If you're lying to me, if this is just another manipulation, I will destroy you. I have the evidence, I have the connections, and I have nothing left to lose. Don't test me. I won't. She leaves to make the phone calls, and I sit alone in the kitchen, thinking about choices and consequences and the price of justice. Outside, Millfield sleeps peacefully, unaware that its most successful real estate broker is about to disappear and its corruption scandal is about to explode. By morning, Richard Blackwood is gone. His office is cleaned out, his apartment abandoned, his Mercedes found at Portland International Airport. The FBI arrives by noon, armed with warrants and evidence boxes, and a very cooperative witness named Sarah Morrison. The investigation will take months, the trials will take years, but Millfield will get its money back, and the people responsible will face justice. As for Sarah and me, that's a longer story, one that will take time to write. But for the first time in months, I feel like the author of my own life instead of just a character in someone else's drama. Emma comes home from college the next weekend, full of questions and accusations and social media outrage. But as the truth comes out, as the scope of Richard's crimes becomes clear, her anger shifts from me to her mother. It will take time to repair our relationship, but at least now we have the foundation of truth to build on. Tommy finds me at the gym Monday evening, working the heavy bag like it owes me money. "So," he says, "how does it feel to win?" I stop punching, consider the question, like the beginning of something new. Good new or bad new? Different new. We'll see where it goes. I unwrap my hands, looking around the gym. It's still the same place: concrete floors, exposed pipes, the smell of sweat and determination. But I'm not the same man who walked in here a week ago, broken and defeated and ready to give up. Sometimes you have to lose everything to remember who you really are. Sometimes you have to become the villain to expose the real criminals. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something better. The old Jake Morrison is gone, replaced by someone harder, smarter, more dangerous. Someone who understands that justice isn't always pretty, and that good men sometimes have to do terrible things to protect what matters. I grab my keys and head for the door. Tomorrow I'll start rebuilding my business, my reputation, my life. Tonight, I'm going home to an empty house and the satisfaction of knowing that the bad guys lost and the good guys won, even if the line between them got a little blurry along the way. Sometimes that's the best you can hope for.